bitches, every city in my tribe. Look behind. Booty dominate the world, peaches ripe.
Hello,
Hello,
welcome.
how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I first want to apologize for the lady that came on. I can't. You dealt with that very well.
Oh, well, thank you.
Uh,
Um,
you know,
I
so I
I've had
do.
a lot of practice.
So I do
And I
want to
guess
give
it's
you.
praying for me.
Yeah. So I do want to give you a pro-life argument. Um,
Okay.
and it's a formal argument. I don't know if you've dealt with many of those. Just where that if the premises are true, then the conclusion must follow as true.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you dealt with those. But I wanted to say before we get into that, I love that you said that you're into intellectual conversation because that's very very interesting, and I agree. I also want to say that I feel like before we ever get to this conversation, which we won't do it for here for time, but I feel like there needs to be a talk about determinism or free will because there's an argue there's that thing in the scientific community: do we have free will? Because that would play obviously a big role into any of these types of talks. But that might be something for another day. But um, but let
Okay.
me go. Let me go over the argument. So and part of the reason I want to do this is because I want to try to educate pro-lifers because most of the pro-lifers we run into are religious, and usually
Sure.
there's some type of feeling and moral thing with them, and they just care what the Bible says or whatever the religion says, and so they're just going to want to just say it's wrong without having any real logical argument. So this is in hopes to inform them that there are ways to form logical arguments and then try to do it that way, and it gets you know. So let me start with that. So premise one is murdering a human is both illegal and immoral. Would you agree with that premise?
Murdering someone is illegal and immoral.
Murdering a human is both illegal and immoral.
Um, if we're just going off the black and white text that you're giving me, yes. But again, I would like more context. But just going based off the statement you had, yes.
Well, we can go back to any, this isn't kind of like, so these type of arguments aren't really those gotcha type arguments. This is
Oh,
one
okay,
that
great.
yeah.
Thank
So
you for saying that because I
absolutely,
feel like people reduce
I got
things to a
you.
yes or no. It's like a trying to get me a gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I,
So
I will
really,
I will humor you, and if you get me, you get me.
sure,
Okay, so
sure,
first
sure.
question, yes.
Yeah. So really, this is just the concept. If we can think of anything where maybe that's not the case, then we can say no. But if it's like murdering a human is like that, that one makes sense. Most people are going to agree. And remember, in order for the conclusion to follow necessarily true, all of the premises have to be correct, right? So every
Okay.
one of them has to be right. Number two, a human is defined by its DNA, meaning the little end on the end of DNA. That the little end part on DNA is kind of what makes a tree different from a bee or a human. We
I
share
would say
sodium.
no.
You would say no. Okay.
No.
And can I ask you why? So you do not think that humans are defined by
Correct. Because you could say that's true about anything, that a shark is defined by its DNA, that a dog is defined by its DNA. But I do think there is a distinction between plants and animals and humans. And then if we're going to get into like the actual biological definitions, um, again, I would require context of, are we talking about a human, which is post-birth, or a human being, which is pre-birth? So,
Sure,
but
but
the reason I say no is simply because I don't think our DNA is what defines us. It's essentially our brains is what makes humans special. So I guess that's the lens I'm looking at it through is what you're asking
so
me.
so the thing is I agree with everything you said. I don't think anything you said there is wrong. Um, but because but I don't think anything you said also um, says that this premise is wrong. because at the end of the day, you said that the plants are plants and they're different from humans, and humans are different from whatever other animals we want to say. We're different, and I completely agree with you. And the DNA kind of does that. But the DNA does define plants. The DNA does define a bee. DNA does define human to make a human what a human is, so forth and so on. And so yeah, so I would say scientifically we can actually show that a human is defined by the DNA. We're part of the Homo sapien family, and that's
Okay.
through the DNA.
So I could agree with that, that's what separates us from other species. Sure. I guess I understood the question in a different context.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, so premise 3 is a fetus, a human fetus, obviously, one that's in people, has human DNA. And I agree with you. By the way, I agree with you on the brain. I'm aware that that doesn't start to form until much later. I'm pregnant, like 20 weeks or 24 weeks or whatever it is.
Yeah, 24 weeks.
Yeah, it's 24. I knew it was after 20. I couldn't remember exactly. It's been a minute since I've looked that up. But yeah, so basically, I'm only just saying that what's making the body of the fetus, that it has a body, and that it contains human DNA. Like it has all the DNA.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Here, let me turn my light on because it was hurting my eyes. Let me turn it back on.
So last one is premise 4, and premise 4 says that if we remove, if you remove a human from an environment in which it can survive and place it into an environment in which it cannot survive, that it can't survive, is murdering a human. So basically, if I take my friend and he's fine living, walking, whatever, and I place him into a chamber where he can no longer survive, I'm necessarily murdering. I'm murdering that guy if I do that to him.
Man, I just feel it requires more context. I don't like that it's a yes or no format, but again, just looking at it black and white, yes.
So that's the last premise. So if all 4 are correct, then it follows taking a fetus, which is a human, from the mother, which basically it's on life support, and placing it into an environment where it can no longer survive equals murder under the argument.
Well, but murder is defined as unlawful.
Right. So the concept is it is the same. It is equal. So therefore it should be, is the concept.
Right. And I mean, again, too, it's more because that also doesn't consider bodily autonomy, where I see where you made the link of, taking it out of one environment and putting it into an environment it can't survive, like maybe a person underwater. But again, like that doesn't violate someone's bodily autonomy, where which I guess is my argument. And again, if we look at the process of abortion, it's just the deliberate termination of pregnancy. So it really depends on when that deliberate act occurs, because under that definition, even induced labor could fall under it. Yet, when that happens at the later stages of pregnancy, the fetus survives, where at the early stages of pregnancy, it does not, because it doesn't have the bodily processes to sustain itself. So I feel the structure of the questions are flawed.
Yeah. Sure. So I will say, so the one thing I will say that it is logically formed. It is within philosophy. It does have the premises which are true, and then the conclusion must follow, which is all case. Now here's a little bit of the twist, right? Is I'm not a pro-life. I care more about the prevention stage before we ever get to the abortion stage. And I think both sides should agree on the prevention part is basically it's not 100%. Some's going to slip through the cracks. but we should
Right.
improve that. I come from the mindset that it's better to have less abortions than it is to have more.
Sure, I think we all do.
And so if that's true, in my mind, there has to be something wrong. Something, if we want less, there's got to be some reason we value less better than more. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm not going to infer any reason why we think that or what's wrong with it if there is something wrong with it. I'm only saying that's the mindset I come at. And I wanted to do this more for any of the pro-lifers that's within your thing to show that you can literally come on here. You don't just have to say, I believe it and Jesus told me, and so therefore we shouldn't do it and it's murder. That's so wrong. We should build, like what I did. I created this for that purpose, to show that I can make a logical argument that makes sense. Because when you look at it, if you take somebody off of life support, if a family decides to take their son off of life support because there's no sign of him getting better, that's not murder, right? But if there's every sign and the doctor's saying, hey, he's going to wake up, and you take him off, that is murder. It just simply is. And so again, my statement isn't to prove it, just for everybody to know, so you understand. I'm not making the actual real attempt to say abortion is murder. I'm not making that. I'm only saying that when we come to these debates and these talks, we can do better. And no matter what side you're on, pro-choice, pro-life, because I've heard some pretty horrific pro-choice things, like it's just a clump of cells.
I'm sorry.
I'm just a clump of cells. So don't, so I mean, from a scientific standpoint, I'm also.
Yeah, I think there's a better way to say that, because I'm sure we would agree that the term life has nuance.
Yeah. So, I think.
And,
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, I think every situation is different. To some degree, there's some difference.
I agree. I think every situation is a snowflake, for sure.
Now, I'm helping humans, so I'm not going to lie. Do I hope that everyone can say, yes, we're going to go through the pregnancy and let's do it? I love people. That I'm all about helping humans. My whole channel is about helping people financially, emotionally, however I can. That's what I love to do. And that's my passion. And so I just wanted to do that just to maybe help some people. If you're pro-life, have better arguments, because pro-life is right now have the worst arguments in this battle. But pro-choice could work a little bit on some of theirs. That's all I wanted to say.
Sure. So what argument for pro-choice do you feel needs work?
Well, the clump of cells one, I don't like that's done. And also, I think that saying that the termination of terminating pregnancy is dishonest. It's of course that it's true, but it's dishonest in the sense that it still is killing. Now we can say that it's not murder, but a fetus, even though it doesn't have a brain, like if somebody, again, if we use the life support scenario, if we have somebody on life support and they can't feel nothing or experience nothing, doesn't mean just because they can't feel it, we should be able to end their life in a way that would not be, I don't know what the word is. Just because they don't feel pain doesn't mean we should do something that would cause feel pain, basically. So I'm just saying that it is
what lane you are kind of in argument with, because so you said the clump of cells, and then because they don't feel any pain are the two?
Well, no, yeah. So just because they don't, I'm saying just because they don't feel pain, doesn't mean that it's not ending the fetus's life. So I would agree with you that it's not murder. I would never say that it's murder. It's not legal. First off, it's a legal term.
Correlation and not causation.
Say that again.
Would you say that abortion is correlated to the death of the fetus, but not the causation?
I'm so fucking cute, bitch.